ran and the bands played, here where families picnicked and children dreamed. Today we have an insurance company. Show of the season at the Keene Drive-In movie, Liz Taylor in Elephant Walk. Now, when could this be? I'd say, what, late fall, about 1959, maybe? Just take a look at the car. It would, of course, be impossible to talk about things that aren't here anymore and not mention drive-in movies. Who hasn't got a drive-in movie story? I used to go on dates to the Pine Island Drive-In in Manchester. I did a lot of necking. Funny word, necking. It's not a word they use nowadays, but that's what we used to do at the drive-in back in the 50s. We necked. Back then, there were drive-in movies in Nashua and in Newington, Plaistow, Claremont. But my favorite drive-in was the Keene Drive-In. Back in 1963, when I was a young reporter on the Monadnock Ledger in Jaffrey, I used to go to the Keene Drive-In all the time with my wife and the baby. Not to neck, mind you. We went because at the drive-in, you didn't need a babysitter. Mitch Shakur literally grew up at the drive-in. His dad and mother, Gabe and Barbara Shakur, whom I knew, purchased the Keene Drive-In the year that Mitch was born, 1953. That's Mitch, by the way, on the swing.
I can remember, oh, God. I can remember I would have to run after cars. After late at night when the box office closed, a car would try to sneak in because what they'd do, somewhere around the beginning of the second show, we'd close down the box office. People would wait because they'd be cruising the street, and they'd wait till they see the lights put on, and then they'd come in slowly with their lights off. And you'd run after them with a flashlight. That was my job, to run after them. Usually they wouldn't pay. They were just trying to get in for free. So you'd run them. One guy I lost, and I thought it was this one, but it wasn't. It was someone else. So I went up to the car. I didn't see any heads. I flashed my light in, and I got a quick education. And the fellow pulling up his pants was swearing at me and running after me. I remember that pretty distinctly.
I can remember one time some of the older kids, my brother and some of the older kids, had taken, and at the time they had all the microphone stands, the car stands, on concrete pedestals. And you could tip them over and expose the wires. So what they did was they tipped them over and they exposed the wires, tapped into them, dug a little trench all the way to the back of the theater, the back of the drive-in, and ran wires up to a tree cabin that they built. We used to sit up there. They had a little speaker. We used to sit up there in the tree house and watch the movies with a little speaker. And I think Mr. Shakur caught on to that pretty fast, and it was disassembled one day when we showed up. But that was a lot of fun.
The nuns at St. Joseph's School used to call it Passion Playhouse. And every now and then they would get on this kick and start making a point of me. And I would really be shaken up because I didn't look at it as my parent. I didn't know to begin with what was going on back there. I was a kid. And so suddenly, all this stuff was going over my head. I would come back, repeat it to my parents. My parents, who were heavy contributors to both the St. Bernard's Church and St. Joseph's School, would not stand for that 1 second. They would get right on the priest, right on the Sister Superior, and an apology would be forthcoming to me, which I knew nothing about how this all worked. But a lot of that, quote, dirty drive-in money went to buy the nuns everything they needed. The last year of operation was 1985. My father died a year later. So I can remember at school, people thought I was almost like royalty because my parents owned a drive, and I was somehow richer than they even thought the parents were because it was a visible wealth. The drive-in was the idol of everyone. To go to the drive-in and to be an owner of the drive-in or the owner's son was, right up there with J. Paul Getty.
And now today, here where the Keene Drive-In movie used to be, we have this field with small windrows of earth to show the places where the speaker stands used to be. Most of the drive-in movies are now gone because the land they were on simply became too valuable. But then again, so too are most of the grand old movie theaters, also